A live edition of the Rising Tide Leadership Podcast. My name is Mo, and I'm sitting here with Dr. Lem Usita. Dr. Lem, what's up, man?
What's going on, man? Another episode where we talk about leadership. Dude, I'm excited. Looking forward to working through these ideas. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I love going live because it gives our audience a little bit of a peel back of the curtain of what we actually do here. So bear with us if we mess up, but we're just going to do our best here. So, Dr.
Yeah.
Lem, we are talking about matching leadership intensity to group development.
Yes,
And
sir.
so, what a great thing to talk about, especially at the end of a year where you've probably, if you've been working in any kind of setting in an office or with a team, you have had group dynamics. And so, it's important for you if you are leading any type of organization, whether it's the entire organization, if you're a small sector of the organization, or even just your small team,
Yeah.
are you doing what's necessary? So let's jump right into it. I wanted to
Yeah.
talk about leadership and intensity. You say that leadership failure often comes from misalignment. What does that look like when leadership intensity doesn't match a team's developmental stage?
Well, it's a great question, and truly the point of the article. A great leader knows when and how much to lead depending on what the group or the team needs. So, having some context for what's happening with the group or team helps the leader know like how intense they need to be in leadership, whether to step in, whether to step back, and different stages of the group dynamic necessitate different leadership intensity. And so a great leader knows how to modulate accordingly, and they will lead. They will lead more effectively when they lead according to what the team needs. Yeah, there's some leaders that just lead one like they're 100 miles an hour all the time, and that doesn't necessarily always help the team. So you can overlead and underlead if you're not paying attention to what the team needs.
Hmm. So let's talk about this framework. How does this framework build on Tuckman's stages, which you talk about, while shifting the
Yeah.
focus from team behavior to leadership demand?
Yeah, when I first learned about Tuckman's four stages of group development, um, it was more about what is happening with the team and not so much leadership. But when I took a step back and I put that leadership lens on it, I realized that in each phase and in each stage, you need a different level of leadership. And so the four stages, just I'm going to go over Tuckman's developmental development of a group, and there's four stages: forming, storming, norming, and performing. In forming, teams are excited and there's a strong desire to belong and to get to work. Like, I mean, leadership is more symbolic and more orienting in the forming stage because the group is forming. It's where you articulate purpose and vision, you create psychological safety, and you set expectations. The leadership intensity is low because there's some excitement there. But after forming, you move into storming, where leadership is tested in this stage. Roles are established, the pressure to perform begins, and the team tests leadership and they test roles and they test each other. So leadership demand is at its peak. So you need to absorb anxiety, you need to hold boundaries, you need to keep the team productive. So there's a high leadership intensity that's required in storming because they're challenging leadership. And then once you work through all that, you move into the third stage called norming, where leadership has worked through the challenges and now it's time for integration, where a leader can realign the group towards shared goals, they can reinforce accountability, they can establish norms. That's why they call it norming. And so there's moderate leadership required in norming because they've kind of worked through stuff. And then in the last stage, performing, you've got the team moving, the leadership load is minimal at this point. You don't want to disturb the groove or the flow that the team's in, because overleading overleading a team that's performing really well really shuts down their performance. And so In each one of these stages, forming low leadership, storming the highest intensity, norming moderate, and then in performing, you basically step back and you let them go. But understanding the development of the team and the kind of leadership that the team needs really helps you to be effective as a leader.
Yeah, I can attest to Tuckman's model here. I've used this and seen it in pretty much every sports team that I've been a
Mm-hmm.
part of. Every time I've
Mm-hmm.
coached, this takes place. Now, if you come in to something that already has existed, they may have done some or all of these.
Yeah.
And like on a college team, we have kids cycle in and out every year. So
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting, but and that's what's made it hard for me because I have a specific philosophy of leadership and coaching. I do my best to lead from who I am to who other people are, but it's hard not to get stuck into a single leadership style. And you and I talked
Yeah.
a lot about this over the years. So, why do you think that leaders tend to default to a single leadership style instead of adapting as the group matures?
It happens because leaders only know one single leadership style. They don't have the insight to adjust leadership at the right moments, in light of the team development and group development. I've seen leaders just lead like they're leading all the time. I've seen leaders lead at the wrong times. I've seen leaders under lead because they're not paying attention to what to the group dynamic and what the group needs. And so I've missed this at times, but knowing exactly what the team needs and where they're at in their developmental stage really helps you to be more effective as a leader. So at the end of the day, it's just people don't have these categories, and that's why we're sharing it today.
Yeah, let's talk about everybody's favorite part of leadership: conflict,
Yeah, let's
resistance,
go.
and the leadership crucible. So, you describe phase two as the crucible of leadership. What is that, and why is this where leaders are most often rejected and where teams fracture?
Yeah, I've seen teams not ever get out of phase two, and they just get stuck in phase two because there isn't that leadership intensity to establish uh, to establish how the team should function and work. So some teams never get out of it, and if that's the case, the leader didn't have enough intensity, didn't set enough boundaries, and the bottom line is trust was not created, or it was lost. So either way, it's the leadership's responsibility. And I know this feeling. I've misread teams and what was going on, and I didn't have enough intensity and never made it out of this phase. But ultimately, the bottom line, the reason why people don't get out of this phase is because there isn't enough trust in the leader to lead the team.
I'm telling you, man, everything comes back to trust. If a team does
Yeah.
not have trust, you can't really go anywhere because things are going to it's going to fracture, and you know
Hmm.
it, they know it. If it's unspoken, people still that's why people leave teams. That's why they leave sports teams. That's why they
Hmm.
leave companies. That's why they leave leaders. That's why they leave managers.
Hmm.
And so, man, I love that. So
Yeah.
if that's the case, how can leaders absorb anxiety and then hold boundaries without becoming defensive or, my favorite, overbearing?
Yeah. A leader can absorb anxiety and hold boundaries if they are secure in who they are, if they're secure in their identity, and then they lead out of that. um, then it's not personal, and I think when you take it personally, that's when the anxiety and the inability to hold boundaries and becoming defensive like happens, right? A,
Yeah.
a leader will take it personally when they lose sight of vision and what it is they're doing as a leader. And a leader that's secure will absorb anxiety, hold boundaries because there's trust there in the leader, and the team will be relaxed because the leader has their trust and will get the team through whatever the challenge might be. And so it ties back into trust. It also ties back into, sometimes leaders take things personally. Like it's not personal. Like, but you take it personally when you're not secure in who you are and you're not secure in your leadership identity.
Yeah, I think that one kind of hits some people in the jugular a little bit because I think I mean, especially right when you're in leadership, you want people to appreciate what you do. You want them to believe in what you are, how you lead, and then somebody you know does something or goes against what you are hoping to get done, and then you take it personally. I know I've taken stuff personally, and you're right.
Hmm.
Like I need to hear that. I need to step back sometimes and say, okay, it's not personal. It's
Hmm.
this is regular within teams.
Yeah.
So let's talk about long term consequences. So what happens when leaders underlead during conflict, and then as some leaders do, they just avoid it completely.
Right. In the absence of leadership, when there's a leadership vacuum, the team will try to fill the void with their own way of resolving the challenge because you haven't given any kind of leadership. And so when there's no leadership, the team doesn't know who to follow or what to do. And so they try to fill that to the best of their ability. And they try to resolve that conflict on their own without direction. And when that happens, because no one's leading them, there's inevitably going to be conflict. And when people don't lead, like that's what will happen. Like you breed conflict and you breed confusion because no one's leading. You
I was gonna say, isn't that frustrating? Like when that happens though, like shouldn't we already know that?
I mean, you should already know that, but it still happens. Like that's just part of the leadership journey to like work through it and grow in it, and learn what it looks like.
Man, I'm telling you, like I think so many leaders get caught up, and actually, I'd love to talk about maturity because I think a lot of leaders never understand maturity. They never learn restraint.
Hmm.
They don't know timely leadership. They miss it on all fronts. And so when a team finally reaches alignment and they're performing well, why does doing less actually require more leadership maturity?
It requires leadership maturity because they're secure in their leadership and know that there's trust, which allows them to sit back and get out of the way of the team. So when a team's performing and then they're just running on all cylinders, and sometimes the leader will step in and disrupt that flow. So it takes a mature leader to sit back and let the team perform. I mean, it I've seen it time and time again. Microsoft used to do this. They would launch a product, and then leadership would get involved right before they would launch the product, and then the the deadlines to launch this product would get delayed because there was a disruption in the process. And so, things like that kind of just happen, and it happens because you didn't do all the work on the front end when it was cheaper, when it costs less. So do all your leadership on the front end and set the team up for success, and then like get out of the way. But yeah, it takes a mature leader and a secure leader to do that.
Yeah, you actually warn against leaders over functioning in high performing teams. So what drives that impulse emotionally?
Emotionally, I think the leader feels left out, right? They made it personal again. And if
Yeah.
you're the leader, set the team up to perform, then get out of the way. You've done your job as the leader if you've set the team up to do what they're going to do. Your job now is to be available and not get in the way. I've seen situations where I as a leader would just talk to the team and I would meddle in what they're doing, and then they would take what I say and it would disrupt their flow. And it's not
Yeah.
like I meant to do that, but like because I'm the leader, I have that I have that ability. And so leaders need to be careful and use a little bit of restraint to not meddle with teams. Leaders need to be careful in this space to not upset the flow. But it's so hard when the team's doing great and you want to just be a part of it. Like you just kind of get in there and like, oh, I'm missing out on this thing. Like again, you can't take it personally. You're not technically you're not on the team. so so take a step back and let
Yeah.
the team do their work because that's not your job anymore. You got to do your job and be the leader.
Yeah, that's good. That actually reminds me of one of my favorite episodes in Band of Brothers. I just love the entire series, but in Band of Brothers, there's a part where Captain Winters gets a promotion, so he's no longer leading the troops in the field. He's taken out. He's put in an office. He's got an orderly or an assistant, and he's in the cush, air conditioned. Well, there's no air
Yeah.
conditioning back then, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And he has to watch his team that he built for like 2+ years from
Mm-hmm.
afar, and then literally step back.
Mm-hmm.
And just you can see the feelings and the emotions that he's going through because he wants to be a part of it,
Yeah.
but of course he was a great leader, so we should actually do more on Major Winters because he's just so good. But like
Yeah.
he has to watch his team from afar. I don't think a lot of leaders do that. I think a lot of leaders miss that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's somebody out there right now. They're feeling stuck. They're
Yeah.
like, man, my team is just like, we're in the mud. Tires are spinning. We can't get out. What's the first question that they need to ask themselves to get unstuck?
Yeah, the first question you ask is what phase is the team in right now? Is it forming, storming, norming, or performing? When you figure out what phase of development the group dynamic is in, then you lead accordingly. And so if it's forming, low intensity of leadership. If it's storming, the highest intensity of leadership. If it's norming, it's moderate. You're setting the pace and getting it like, just lining things up on the team. And if it's performing, you get out of the way. And so the first question to ask is what phase is the team in its group dynamics?
Hmm. All right. So for the YouTube audience, that's the question. Facebook, wherever you're watching, what phase is your team in right now? Because they're in one, or actually, some of them could be in one phase, and others could be
Right,
wanting to get to the
right,
next one, and
right.
that creates tension, right? I've experienced that as well, but sometimes I have to go ask. We've had conversations like that to figure out, well, where's my team right now? So
Yeah,
don't be afraid to ask. And if you have questions, you can ask us. Drop a comment, or hit us up with a DM, whatever. But until then, we'll talk more about this. This is one of my favorite topics because I think it really helps leaders get to the next level. So don't forget to like, subscribe, share this episode with somebody who needs to hear it. And we'll be back next time. Dr. Lem, thanks for that. Appreciate it.
yes, sir. Thanks.
All right.